Lentils, red beans. Oh my God, I gotta get the bag. Welcome back. I'm Clayton Chapman. I'm out at the Heartland Elk Ranch in Sparks, Nebraska, one of my favorite places on earth. It's a beautiful fall / feels like winter afternoon. In honor of Halloween, I'm gonna make some spooky ghost chili with jalapenos and elk meat from the ranch. So when I'm out at the ranch, I love to cook everything over open fire. So we've got some hardwood going on the charcoal grill here, and we're going to cook everything in this amazing cast iron Dutch oven skillet. So I've taken the liberty with a few things this morning, doing a little mise en place prep before we get started. So I have my elk meat that's been soaking in some red wine. I have diced white onion, minced garlic and jalapeno, some diced slab bacon here that's gonna be delicious, and that's kind of gonna be the foundation of everything that we're gonna do today. I have my hatch chilies, fresh rosemary, fresh bay leaf, fresh thyme, so I'm gonna make like a little herb sachet there. I have some elk stock made from the bones of the animal. I came up from Omaha with some of our home preserves, so I have some canned tomatoes that's going to go in. And then let's talk about some beans. So I love making chili with dried beans rather than canned beans. You make it with whatever you have access to. It's gonna be delicious either way. But what I went ahead and did is I took these dried beans and I soaked them for about, you can soak them for like a minimum of 8 hours, maximum of like 24 hours. Essentially what I do, I take the beans, put them in a container, cover them with water, and I just put them in the refrigerator overnight. So that way they're completely saturated, they're soaked, they're soft, they're ready to go into the chili today. So I have green lentils, red beans, lima beans, pinto beans, and Great Northerns. I really feel that that's a great blend of texture and flavor profiles that kind of brings everything together. So while I get this on the fire, I'm going to start some buttermilk crackers that are going to go on the top of the chili, as well as some lime creme fraiche. And we're going to bring this all together with a splash of red wine vinegar from our friends George Paul out of Cody, Nebraska. It's just a hop, skip, and jump from the ranch. Let's go cook some chili. We're looking good. Going in with the onions. This wouldn't be Clayton Chapman chili without some butter in it. It just wouldn't be. So I came from Omaha with some of our house churned butter. I've got bacon fat rendering in that pan, caramelizing some onions. I'm gonna go in with a little bit of butter. All right, I talk a lot about using fresh herbs in a lot of the food that I like to make, and especially like these hardy herbs. So I have some fresh thyme, fresh rosemary, fresh bay leaf. We're gonna put them in, we're gonna use them for flavor, we're gonna pull them out at the very end. Looks pretty awesome. Crispy bacon. Caramelizing our onions. That's beautiful. Going in with my jalapeno and minced garlic. My hatch chilies. A little more butter. Healthy pinch of salt. These hatch chilies are gonna impart a bunch of flavor, a little bit of heat, and then I'm gonna remove them depending on their texture at the very end. So I have my red wine marinated elk that's gonna go in the pan. What I did was I went ahead and I drained the red wine off, kind of patted the meat dry a little bit so that it gets a nice sear to it. And I added my red wine to my canned tomatoes so that that can go in here in a minute as I wanted to glaze. All right, so my elk is completely browned, My bacon, my onions are caramelized. Chilies and the garlic are completely cooked through. These hatch chilies are starting to hydrate themselves. I mean, this smoke is like really permeating. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in with my red wine and tomatoes to deglaze, caramelize the tomatoes a little bit, bring out some of those natural sugars. So that red wine is releasing all that fond on the bottom of the pan that we created from browning the elk and caramelizing the onions. I like to add another pinch of salt at this point, and that's gonna help pull out some of the moisture from the tomatoes as well. In goes my elk stock. Lid goes back on. I'm gonna wait till this comes to a boil. Then I'm gonna add my beans, and then I'm gonna let this cook all day. Using cast iron to cook in is my favorite vessel, my favorite type of pot to use, my favorite type of pan to use. And I say all the time that you can cook anything in cast iron if it's well seasoned. So now I'm gonna go in with all my beans, stir to combine. Now the trick here is I like to let this cook all day. You know, this is something I like to start in the morning. We're gonna go for some nice long hikes. We're gonna throw the baseball around. So I feel that every good chili deserves a cracker to go on the top. I think sometimes that's even my favorite part, is like taking, you know, those old like oyster saltine crackers and cracking them over chili. So I'm gonna make my kind of homemade version. It's just a little buttermilk cracker. I have homemade butter, salt, buttermilk that's expelled from the butter after churning, and flour. Really simple ingredients. I have this amazing carbon steel pan from Blanc Creatives that we're going to roll the crackers out into and then cook this over open flame just until the crackers get nice and crispy. So very basic steps. Flour, really cold butter that I just want to cut in with my hand. So I'm going to go butter into flour. And I'm going to start breaking it up with my fingers. Like making biscuits, like making pie dough. It's really, the technique is all the same. I'm gonna end with about dime-sized pieces of butter. Butter is what's going to make these crackers moist, flaky. It's gonna give a lot of little layers inside this small little cracker. Okay, pinch of salt. Stir all that in. Now then your buttermilk. Buttermilk is just to moisten and bring the dough together. Just kind of start with that. Mix to combine. And as I'm doing this, I'm really trying not to like over knead the dough. I don't want to develop too much of the gluten. I just want to bring it all together. It's definitely going to take a little more liquid here. Okay, just want to roll this out. The thinner you roll it, the crispier the cracker becomes. The thicker you leave it, the more biscuit-like it's going to be. And flip this over. I'm just going to take, flip over, just like so. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm gonna set this right on the open flame. One of the final condiments that I like to do with my chili to replace like the traditional sour cream, I like to use my homemade creme fraiche. Put a little twist on it. I like to introduce some citrus. I think the lime zest goes really well with the heartiness of the chili, the meatiness of the elk, the smokiness of the chili itself and from the bacon. So it's incredibly simple. Creme fraiche, lime zest, stir to combine, and that's it. I'm getting ready to pull my chili off the heat here, which I'm going to finish with a little bit of red wine vinegar from George Paul out of Cody. All right. My cracker's done here. It's nice and crispy all the way throughout. Got a little texture, a little burnt ends on the outside. This is gonna be delicious. I think we are ready. You can see those hatch chilies have really softened up and kind of melted their way into the pot here. You still see some of these herb stems I talked about taking out in the bay leaf. Just kind of pick them out as you go. The sun is out. It's probably warmed up almost 15 degrees in the last couple hours. It's just like it's turned into an amazingly beautiful day. It's time to eat. All right, we're gonna put the final finishing touches on this here. So I'm just gonna give a nice scoop. Creme fraiche here. Some fresh cheese, fresh crackers. Just kind of break them up. And then just a final rasp of lime zest. Just give it a taste. Delicious. I love that meatiness, that like robustness, that richness from the elk, and the smokiness from sitting over the open flame all day, the texture from the fresh crackers, and then the creaminess from the creme fraiche and the Rosa Maria cheese. Chile, baby, out here at the ranch. Thanks so much for joining me today, guys. Tune in for some more great stuff coming your way soon. Thanks again. Follow us on social media, all the usual suspects, where we share new tips, tricks, and recipes weekly of all my favorite dishes that I love to make at home. Let's finish.